When you're putting together your course and creating your course information, it's important to make sure you're building with ADA compliance in mind. So to make sure that you have ADA compliance in mind, you need to use formatting such as headlines and lists. So what that looks like is right here, this is a headline, and this is body copy. It's not a list, but we'll get there. And again, we have another headline, and we have more body copy. And as you can see, that makes this whole piece of content easily skimmable and easy to track down the exact information you need quickly. And then lastly down here, this is a list. So we're using that little bullet tool in the content editor instead of manually making this a list. So let's go ahead and build a content item that uses the headline formatting. I need to fill in my textbook and resources, and this is a great piece of content that will use multiple heading styles, and we'll just have to add a list even though it doesn't make sense in this instance, but we'll just do it for an example. So here I will just get rid of this starter information. And I'm going into a Word document that if you work with the Teaching and Learning Center, you can get a course content kit with a bunch of starter documents to help you move quickly through a lot of these steps. So if we take a look at this, we have several headlines here. So these top 4 here, if we take a look, are all formatted to be heading 1, including this headline as well, that is also a heading 1. And then if we look below it, this information technically falls below additional resources. So since they are lower on the hierarchy of information, they are heading 2. And below each heading, you see we have just regular paragraph text. So let's take a look at how that translates into Blackboard. I am going to move my windows side by side so we have an easier time looking back and forth. Okay, so even though this is supposed to be filled in with my own course's information, we're just going to go ahead and work with this to show the example. So I'm going to copy this using Control-C on the keyboard and paste it into the content editor using Control-V. I'm going to remove formatting. This removes a lot of additional font information that can potentially slow down your page or look a little crazy if there's ever any updates to Blackboard in the future. So you could keep the formatting if you want, but I highly recommend removing the formatting as it just works well with both the mobile and online versions of Blackboard. Even though we remove the formatting, there is still craziness going on, and I apologize, it's just how Blackboard works, and there's no way of really getting around it. But this at least signifies to you on what you need to do with your content then to make it ADA compliant before you hit submit and call it a day. So starting at the top, the item in the content editor that we really need to be aware of at this point is this drop-down menu here. Right now it says paragraph, but it will give us then the styling to make it ADA compliant. And you may be noticing this is labeled differently than it was in Word. So if we go take a look back in Word, we have things like heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. We don't have heading, subheading 1, subheading 2. You just have to remember how the name of the formatting translates from Microsoft into Blackboard. So if you can remember, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3 turns into heading, subheading 1, and subheading 2. It follows the same order. So let's dive in and actually tackle this. This was actually supposed to be a heading 1, but is changed into paragraph text. So let's fix it. We're going to change it from paragraph text into heading, which again was heading 1 over here in Blackboard. And this remains as paragraph text. So that is set to go. This, although it is huge here in Blackboard, has been reset to paragraph text. So let's change it to heading, which is the top level of information here in Blackboard. And we will complete the rest of the headings and stop when we reach the next step. Okay, so our heading 1s are out of the way. And now we have these, what we're heading to in Microsoft, they now become subheading 1 here in Blackboard. So let's get that adjusted. And you can not quite see it because it falls off the page, but we will keep moving. And it's hard to see because when I'm using the format menu at the top, we can't see the changes taking place immediately at the bottom. Again, it's a limitation with my screen size and Blackboard. So just keep moving and just double check your work. Okay, everything is formatted the way we need to have it, and everything that should be paragraph text is paragraph text. So let's hit submit. And this looks a little crazy because it's interpreting my browser size as a tablet right now, but we'll scroll down and take a look at our work. Now, if you'll notice, the size of the text is not nearly the same as it was in the content editor. That is unfortunately just another fun characteristic of Blackboard and nothing you can do a lot about, but your text is ADA compliant with the formatting work that you just did. So try not to stress out about it. It's just the nature of the beast. So let's go back up here and chat about that list item before we are done formatting for the day. So I'm going to edit. And I'm going to actually expand the screen so that we have room to see since we are done with our document. So if we select this information right here, you'll see that that bulleted list comes up automatically. So again, if you're making a list, be sure to use this bulleted item in any format of the bullet that you so choose. If it's, whoops, as you can see, I just undid it. If it's a numbered list, make sure you set it to be in a number list. The way I do not want you to make a list, if you can help it, is if we scroll on down here and make a manual list. So that would look something like this. So these items right here are not technically tied together by formatting. The only way to do that is to select them. So if we look back up here, you can see no lists are highlighted. In order to make it an actual list, in fact, actually, let's move this towards the top so we can see what we're doing in this instance. And we'll just go below here, and I'm going to repaste it. Whoops. So if we want these to become a ADA compliant list, we need to hit the numbers over here. So you can see that now creates double numbers. So you need to go back go back and delete the ones you manually added. But this now makes an ADA compliant list. And if I don't want it to be numbers, we will change it back to bullets. So I don't need this up here, so I'm actually going to just delete it. And that is how to make sure your content is ADA compliant.